We're live.
Yes, we are.
Are you ready to talk about this movie?
I am.
I don't know what you're going to say about it.
No, you don't.
I have no idea. Well, that's why I like it, though.
I know. I like when I don't tell you what I think.
Well, do you, though? Do you like what you... Well, we'll see.
I like telling you on the show.
Well, I like when you tell me on the show, too.
So you don't know what's coming.
I don't know what's coming. I have no idea. I guess that's the way I like it. Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, and your sommelier of cinema, bringing you once again another show of what?
Elizabeth's whining about movies.
And who might you be?
I am Elizabeth Gwendolyn Bell, the ace, the arbiter of cinematic excellence, and the enchantress of entertainment.
The enchantress of entertainment. And listen, I've been waiting for this all day.
You have?
A bottle of wine, actually.
Oh.
I've been waiting for a bottle of wine. I'm not really sure what kind of wine we have here. This is a Scotto Family Cellars. It's a 2018 California Pinot Noir.
Trader Joe's special.
Trader Joe's special. This looks like one. Feels pretty weighty, though. I always forget to take off
The foil.
the foil.
You know we have a foil cutter.
Yeah, I know. I know we do, and I just
Or
don't use
as
it.
a sommelier.
Sommelier. Not a very good sommelier, apparently.
You could cut the foil with a knife.
I could cut the foil with a knife. You know, give me your glass and I'll fill you up. Give you a nice pour.
Or thank you.
Well, this is an interesting film because there's two versions of it.
Yeah.
And the first version came out in 1989. The second version came out in 1992. And the second version I prefer. The extended edition is what it's officially called.
Yeah.
The extended edition was released theatrically, and it basically has bigger scope, more aliens, and
Aliens? What aliens?
yeah, I know. Rob. Pardon me. NTIs, non-terrestrial intelligence. So this is James Cameron's.
So dolphins, basically.
It could be. It could be highly evolved dolphins that came from the future. You never know.
Never know.
So this is James Cameron's it's his fourth feature film if you include Piranha 2: The Spawning, but he was fired off that.
Oh.
So after Terminator and Aliens, this is the movie he made after that.
Okay.
So Aliens came out in 86, this came out in 89.
Okay.
It stars Ed Harris, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, Michael Biehn coming back from Terminator, and of course Aliens, a favorite James Cameron actor.
He must have liked the ocean experience because then he made Titanic.
Well, yeah, but nobody who worked on this movie liked making the ocean experience. If anybody gets a chance, I don't know if it's on YouTube anymore, Under Pressure, Making the Abyss is one of my favorite DVD documentaries ever. I don't think they would ever allow it to be on a disc today because of...
Why?
Well, because it's very candid. And Ed Harris almost died making this movie.
Seriously?
And how they shot this movie, how they made this movie, everyone knows the story. James Cameron, well, we should have watched the documentary before.
Yeah.
It would be worth watching. So they shot this movie inside an abandoned nuclear reactor that was unfinished. They needed a place where they could build the underwater. I mean, this was shot underwater. A lot of it for real. They had two tanks. They had the tank where they built the interiors, and
Can
then
we taste the
yes,
wine?
let's taste the wine. Sorry. Here's to James Cameron's The Abyss, or as many crew members called it, The Abuse.
The abuse.
Cheers to The Abyss. Mm. Ooh, I like that.
Ooh. Nice.
So, I think this movie, I love this movie. First of all, I think watching it again, I was reminded, James Cameron is just a virtuoso action filmmaker that achieves peak verisimilitude through his shot choices, his set design, his actors. And that said, the beginning of this movie, I had not seen it in a while. The dialogue is very on the nose. It has some really very, I wouldn't call it cringe, but he is definitely a populist filmmaker.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, he falls back on a lot of cliches.
A lot of cliches.
Which, by the way, after the first 20 minutes, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
Don't care anymore.
The suspense and it's so intense all the time.
I mean, you were stressed out the whole movie.
So stressed out. I was exhausted by the end.
And this version's almost 3 hours long. By the way, it should be noted before we jump into the plot that this, my friends, is the DVD of the special edition of The Abyss. And I talk about this on the show a lot. Lightstorm has not released 4 of their films domestically on Blu-ray or in HD, unless there's recently you can see True Lies and the Abyss. I don't know if the special edition is out, but in America, you have not been able to get 4K or 2K HD versions of The Abyss, True Lies, Catherine Bigelow's Strange Days, and Steven Soderbergh's Solaris on HD for some inexplicable reason.
Weird.
Thankfully, my German. I was thinking, I don't know why I said Dutch. My German angel, Dieter Bastian, is sending me Steven Soderbergh's Solaris, and I already have these Strange Days. Man, if any Dutch person knew that I mistook a German for a Dutch person, there'd be hell to pay.
What you meant was Deutschland.
Deutschland. I did mean Deutschland. It was a brain fart. What can I say? Please don't get mad at me. I love the Dutch, and I love Dieter. So, there you go. But, Solaris, and also, I have Strange Days on Blu-ray. So anyway, Elizabeth, what is The Abyss about?
Whew, The Abyss is about the abyss.
Begins with Nietzsche's quote, when you look into the abyss also looks into you.
Yes. Well, the ocean freaks me out. So, any movies about the ocean freak me out.
So, well, this movie opens with a nuclear submarine, the USS Montana.
Yes.
And it encounters something that can't possibly exist. Something that can go even 120 knots underwater. Nothing like that exists.
Yeah.
And,
so they follow it.
And you were getting stressed out during this scene.
From that scene on, I was stressed the entire time.
And this thing causes a lot of shockwaves. What happens to the Montana?
So they follow this thing, they don't know what it is, and they're getting awfully close to a cliff, a wall. And the engineer's like freaking out. He's like, we're too close. And then he's like, it's coming too fast. It's like, I don't understand. What is this? And they crash into
the wake of whatever they're chasing is so large because it throws them into the
wall. And they start sinking.
And I have to say, again, Cameron, height of his powers here. The set designs are incredible.
Yeah.
And when that sub is going down, I mean, it's going down fast.
Oh, man, so stressful.
And it does not end well for the crew of the Montana.
No, it doesn't end well.
And, man, I always wince whenever I see this movie when the Montana finally hits the bottom, nose first. And then there's like one shot where the water is coming in and filling a room, and
oh my God,
the sailors are trying to save themselves, but it's too late.
Drowning is like my worst nightmare.
That's what you said when the movie was starting. You hadn't seen this movie before.
No. So yeah, the water rushes into every compartment, and it's frightening.
It is frightening. So then what?
Okay, so then what's next? Cut to a submerged oil rig.
Well, we cut to a boat, the Benthic Explorer. That's on the top. It's like this, almost like a giant catamaran control vessel.
It was underwater.
No. Well, the control vessel is.
Oh, right.
And the control vessel is connected to Deep Core,
right?
Which is a underwater. They're experimenting with underwater drilling.
Yes.
And it is in James Cameron fashion. It's a lot of blue collar workers that are on this Deep Core.
Yeah.
And we get to see there's like the black country singing loving cowgirl.
Yeah.
One Night is her name.
Yeah.
And she's great. And then we have a cast of characters. We have Todd Graff plays Hippie, who believes in conspiracies and keeps it's very James Cameron. It's very sort of by the numbers, but still awesome.
It is.
Kid Brewer. There's a whole group of guys led by Ed Harris, and they're just going about their day.
They are. And they're all friends. Like they because they spend so much time together. they are like family.
They are like family. They've been together for a long time,
Yeah.
and Ed Harris feels very fatherly toward everyone. He'll take care of everyone, and they don't know about the Montana going down.
Right.
They don't know.
Right.
And
They don't know.
unbeknownst to them, two
Well,
military.
why would they? It's a military.
Two military helicopters arrive with a SEAL team,
Yep.
and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
And they're in the middle of a maneuver. They're trying to reconnect some wire or something, and then they're told to stop what they're doing.
Well, the people arrive, and it turns out that the military is sort of taking over.
They're taking over. They're asking for their help.
They're asking for their help, and at the same time, there's a hurricane coming in, approaching, and since the submarine is lost, the Russians are also in the area, because if they lost a nuclear submarine, what does that mean?
Yeah. By the way, the submarine is full of nukes. Like, it's got, I don't even know how many.
ICBMs with many warheads that have 500 kiloton yields.
Yeah.
Bigger than Hiroshima.
Yeah.
And so there's
So
an
it's
international incident brewing. There's a hurricane coming in, and then the SEALs are going to take over, but we still don't know what's going on, really.
Right. And when the submarine was following whatever it was, they were assuming that it was like a Russian
They thought it was a
vessel. So that's what they told
And yes.
the higher ups.
And tensions are ratcheted
Yeah.
up. The Cold War is still raging.
Yes. So they want to be able to save these people if there's anyone alive, but they also want to get to the submarine before the Russians come and take the nukes.
And you find out that Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio are married, soon to be divorced,
Right.
but they're estranged.
They're estranged, and she's the one who
She designed and built Deep Core.
built the underwater oil drilling
Deep
rig.
Core. Deep Core.
And so so they're asking for their help because they're the closest to where the accident happened, and they have the capability to go down there and investigate.
Right, so the Navy SEAL team, along with Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio,
Yeah.
goes down.
So they send 3 military guys, and then they head over there and go down to see what's happening in that submarine.
Yeah, and there's immediate tension between the SEAL team.
Yeah.
There's tension, of course, between Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio and Ed Harris.
Right.
But Ed Harris, from the outset, he still loves her. He wears
Yes.
the titanium
He
wedding
still
ring.
has his wedding ring on, and she even asks him, like, why are you still wearing that? Because they're about to get divorced. And they've been apart for a while.
And it's pretty good the way the tension between them, and it's cliche, but it's also good. For me, I love James Cameron's sort of on-the-nose writing because it is a lot of the time cliche, but it's also good. Like, I like the actors
Yeah.
playing it. Oh, you didn't feel that way?
This movie, yeah. I didn't like Titanic for that reason. I don't know.
I know you're melancholy. I don't presume to know why. Come on, man. Billy Zane power.
I just did not love Titanic.
Well, that's because your heart doesn't go on, apparently.
I don't know. It's a kind of movie that you'd think that I would love, but
I would think that you would love it. I love
didn't.
Titanic.
I don't.
All right. So then what happens?
And I love Kate Winslet. Oh, and I love Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't like that movie. Okay. Anyway, so they go down with a group of theirs and these 3 military guys.
And they say immediately that some people are susceptible to getting pressure psychosis.
Right.
And there are things like people with shaking hands, and you become psychotic because of the pressure. And they
Right.
can't tell why, or they can't tell who. And very early on, Michael Bihn's character, the leader of the SEAL team, the pressure starts to get to him.
Yeah, you see
from
his
the
hand
very beginning.
tremble.
From the very
But
beginning.
he hides it.
He's Lieutenant Coffee.
Coffee, yeah.
He's Coffee, and he's hiding it, but you can tell that. And I like Michael Biehn in the role, and I think in the expanded expanded cut, there's more of him.
Yeah.
Really, they're going to find this submarine.
They are. They go down there and they start.
Well, they have to move. They have to move Deep Core, which is not
Right.
it's an involved process. This thing is huge, So they have to move it. One night has these. They have these little ROV. Well, they've got ROVs and they got mini subs. And one night pilots a mini sub. She's like the tugboat that's pulling this thing along, even though it can rise up on its own power and float.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Deep Core is still connected with this umbilical that has all their equipment and energy.
It's
and
their connection.
It's their connection to the top.
And yeah.
So they get satellite feeds. They get a lot of information. So as they're moving, the boat is moving while the hurricane is coming in.
Right.
And then they finally get to where the trench is, where the Montana's gone down, and they set up, and they're basically getting ready to go. They're perched right on the end of this abyssal trench that goes like miles and miles, like 2.5,
like the abyss,
2.5 miles straight down or something. Yeah. So they say 12,000 feet, 14,000 feet. It's on the edge of this chasm.
Right.
And the Montana is not gone all the way down. It's sitting on a outcropping.
Yeah. Okay, so they send the crew down to see if there's any survivors. And so
a combination of Ed Harris's team members and the SEAL team go in together.
They go in together.
They go in through the front of the ship where it was smashed open, and they go from the front and they slowly move their way back looking for survivors.
Yes. And then they start finding people who have died.
Now, how'd you feel about that? Was it haunting for you?
It's haunting. I mean, you knew that was going to happen.
Right.
But it's very scary because it's like my worst nightmare. And they go deeper and deeper into the submarine.
And find more and more bodies.
And they find more and more bodies, and they split up so they can, search out more spaces more quickly because they only have a certain amount of time. And Ed Harris goes with one of his guys into one of the chambers, and the guy starts freaking out. His guy, what's his name? I don't remember.
Jammer.
Jammer. So Jammer starts freaking out.
Jammer's like the quiet, nice...
The big, gentle giant.
The big, gentle giant. And he starts freaking out.
He starts freaking out.
The dead bodies are really getting to him.
It's getting to him. And so he says, well, just wait right here. So he leaves him in one of the chambers.
Like in a corridor.
Yeah, and so then he keeps going in. He's like, I only need to check a couple more spaces. Just stay here. Here, hold on to this rope. And if you need anything, just tug it twice. But he could still talk to him. So he's there. He's kind of freaking out. And then all of a sudden, his flashlight goes out, and
all the power goes out.
Everything goes out. He can't communicate with him anymore, and he starts tugging on the rope, and the rope breaks because it's rubbing against this metal.
Well, we see the same thing happening that happened to the sub, the Montana.
Yeah.
When whatever's out there causes loss of power.
Right.
And so all the subs that are out there one night, and the other two subs, they lose power. Everybody's losing power.
Yeah.
And something is going on. Like this thing, whatever's out there.
Something is going on, and then Jammer's freaking out, and all of a sudden, like this bright light shines. You don't see it, but like you see the reflection on his helmet.
Some very bright light, some very phosphorus, beautiful, blue
and pink, and he freaks out.
He freaks out. And he tries to go through a bulkhead, and he hits
his equipment, and it makes his oxygen go too high, and his mix is wrong, and he starts to not be able to breathe.
And there's no one around.
Yeah.
And at the same time, outside, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio is out there, and she sees this thing.
Yeah, she sees
is
that
this,
when she sees it?
Well, she sees
a
little version.
The little one, the baby.
Yes. And she tries to take pictures of it.
But she can't because her equipment's off.
Yeah, she can't.
And so then Ed Harris comes back, and he finds his jammer all freaked out, and they are able to quickly adjust his oxygen, and then they take him.
But he's in a coma.
They take him back, and he's in a coma. So they put him on.
But
a bed,
while they're in the sub, the SEAL team, Michael Biehn, Coffee takes the two missile keys.
He does. He finds the
And
captain.
they find the captain's key. He gets
takes the key.
and he also takes the code book that has the
Yes,
things he needs.
Right. And so they go back to the floating...
To deep core.
Deep core. And then the military guy gets orders to go back and get a missile.
To go back and get a nuke.
A nuke.
And Ed Harris's crew doesn't know what's up.
Yeah, and in the meantime, the hurricane is coming.
The hurricane is rolling in.
And they're like, we have to detach the umbilical cord or else you're going to be swept away with the ship, because the ship is on the top, floating.
And they're still connected to the Benthic Explorer.
So they need to disconnect or else they will be swept away.
So our military guys, the
hurricane.
SEAL team, go back to the wreckage of the Montana because they have been ordered to get a nuclear warhead.
Right. But because they do that, they cannot disconnect from the top.
Right. They've taken away the They've taken away One Night's large submersible that she needs to
detach
So it's gone.
It's gone.
And the hurricane's rolling in, and they have like a couple hours left.
Yeah.
And the military has gone off with their one thing.
Yes.
And it's the tension. What I love about this movie is the tension gets ratcheted up, and then it never diminishes. It does what I love. It just keeps piling on one problem after another.
Yes.
But it does it in a way where it's completely believable.
Totally.
And so it all feels earned.
Under the ocean.
Yeah.
Which stress.
So the SEAL team does get a warhead.
It does.
And they bring it back, and they're not saying... They don't
tell the crew, of course.
And Ed Harris is doesn't care why they left. It's like, we need to go right now and unhook this umbilical. And then ratcheting up the tension even further, what happens?
So she tries, what's her name?
One Night.
One Night tries to do it, but because the hurricane has already started, it's moving like this, and she just cannot get her little arm of her submersible to
And at the same time, the hurricane is battering the Benthic Explorer.
Yes.
And they can't pull the thing in.
Yeah. And then finally, there's a crane holding the umbilical cord, and so they're trying to somehow control it, but they can't, and so that crane gets pulled in.
Well, completely collapses.
It collapses, is pulled in, and it starts going down, and it's going to hit them.
And it's such a great, the umbilical cord is thick and heavy.
Yeah.
And it starts falling onto the deep core.
Yeah, and they see it coming.
They can see it on sonar.
They have no connection with the top because that umbilical cord was the way that they could communicate.
And also, this gigantic crane is about to land right on top, and as the umbilical's falling, I mean, it's wreaking havoc with their systems, and everything is going to hell.
Yeah.
And it's the tension here, the action sequence is amazing.
It is so tense.
They're trying to, because the Benthic Explorer is in pieces, and it's things are falling all over, and everything's exploding and catching on fire, and all the crew's running around.
Water.
Yeah, and they're underwater. There's nowhere to go. I mean, there's just nowhere to go.
And so then it actually the crane falls on them.
Well, but the big part of the crane just misses them.
That's right. It just misses them, and they think, oh, phew, we just, but then it goes over the edge of the cliff.
Yeah, and they're still connected to the umbilical cord.
And then they realize, oh, shit. And you see the umbilical cord starting to go and go and go and go.
Well, he just ratchets up the tension. It's like, they surmount one problem, and then another bigger problem is presented.
Yeah.
It's such a great...
And so...
I mean, the filmmaking in this is so good.
Yeah.
The editing, I mean, they had a number of editors. Conrad Buff came in and worked on this film. One of the great action editors, especially the 80s. I mean, a hero of mine. The editing is just unbelievable in this film.
Yeah.
And because they're underwater, the tension never leaves you.
Oh my God. It's so tense.
And there's people, part of Ed Harris's crew, they die.
Yeah, so once the crane goes over and they're pulled over, then things start falling apart and things start breaking and the water starts rushing in, and they have to try to get out of compartments that they need to shut down so that they can,
It's hardcore.
Oh man, and yeah, the part of his crew gets stuck in a room, and then the water starts coming. Ed Harris tries to get them out, but he can't. And then that compartment starts filling up with water, and so he's rushing to get out of it, and the door is closing, and he puts his hand in there to stop the door, and his ring is what saves him because it would have crushed his hand.
Because it's titanium.
Yeah, so the ring is what's holding the door open, and then on the other side, part of his crew are able to open the door and let him in, and then they close the door. But the ring saves him.
And throughout these sequences, we see Ed Harris grappling with the fact, like at one point he takes that ring and throws it in a toilet.
Before that, yeah.
And then he gets it back out.
But he gets it back out because he loves his wife.
He loves his wife. And they do a good job dealing with that tension, the back and forth, the push, the pull, the estrangement of that. And I think it's done very, very well.
It is.
But you see him, he can't let go. He literally throws the relationship in the toilet, but then he goes and gets it back.
But it saves his life.
And it saves his life. His marriage saves his life.
Yeah. 3 times.
Well, yeah. But then, I mean...
okay, so then, I don't know.
Well, everything goes to shit. The deep core is on the edge of this precipice.
Yeah. Oh, and plus now they're running out of oxygen. They only have 12 hours.
Yeah, they're running out of power. They're running out of oxygen. They've basically got 12 hours of life left.
They're basically going to die.
And what they don't know is that the SEAL team has orders to have a nuke and basically blow up the Montana.
Well, no, those aren't quite the orders.
Well,
they assume that's what the orders will be, but they don't get those orders. But the guy who's starting to go crazy decides that
that's right.
Those are the orders.
The orders were just to get the nuke and in case they needed it.
In case they needed it.
But now that all hell is broken loose, they don't know if it's what's going on. And at the same time, we learn that this is turning into a big international incident. We see news reports.
Right.
It's getting to the point where there's a collision and a Russian ship went down, sunk. They're interviewing. You see these news reports, and this is the extended version. This was stuff that wasn't in the original, not like it is in this version.
Like it's about to be World War III.
Yeah, it's worse than the Cuban Missile Crisis. So they're ratcheting up the tension that way too.
They are. They are.
And so we've got a ticking clock of life. You've got hours, and as this is happening, you do see Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio starting to work together. Now they have to save everyone's lives.
Yeah, they have to figure out how to get out of there.
And the tension between the SEAL team and what's left of the deep core crew is rising.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, the tension is so thick and you don't know what's happening.
Yeah, so finally the guy who has the pet rat, he sneaks around and he sees what they're doing. He sees that they... Actually, he uses his little
He uses an ROV.
To look in their window, and he sees them
prepping the warhead.
Yeah, and so he shows that footage to Ed Harris, and as he's doing that, what's her name?
Oh, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio goes, fuck this, I'm going to go confront these motherfuckers.
Well, she comes in and she's like, what the fuck? And she goes immediately to confront them. And she's banging on the door. He lets her in, and they see, of course, the nuke on the table, and he pulls a gun on her. And then they're all freaking out. And so finally he backs off. They leave, and they're like, what the fuck are we going to do?
Well, there's now 2 factions. The tensions are rising. There's now a nuke in play. And they're going to die unless they figure out what to do.
So they're going to die. There's a nuke. And he's going crazy. And
they're trying to fix the thing, and they know that maybe we can go use these external tanks. They have to go underwater and get external tanks and all that. And they're out there, and they're trying to fix this thing. And what happens? Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio has a visitation.
Yeah, again, she gets visited by these phosphorescent beings.
Well, she sees, and she knows they're machines. You can tell they're machines. And she sees the little one. It's really cool. It's got looks like some kind of a turbojet something. and then a
and
much,
then a big
much
one comes,
bigger one.
And she reaches out and touches it, and
of course she's got that going on, and she's trying to explain that there's something down here, and there's more going on than we know.
She comes back and tells everyone, and they start making fun of her.
Well, they also I think we mixed up the order. That might have happened a little earlier on, but they think it's Russian bogies, and that's why because
nobody believes her.
Nobody believes her.
Not even Ed Harris, that would have pissed me off.
But we know that it's happening. We know that it's out there.
Yeah. Right. And then what happens? I forgot. I think we're totally out of order.
Well, no,
as usual.
No, but you were like looking through your hands the whole time. It just gets worse and worse and worse for them.
It's just the tension, and they're underwater. It's the underwater part that I just like. Oh my god.
Well, and then as everyone starts going crazier and crazier, the SEAL team, Michael Biehn decides he's going to nuke. He can't let the Russians get the missiles, and he thinks that the world's going to hell in a handbasket.
Right.
So they're going to program a little ROV to deliver the warhead back to the Montana.
Right, but before that happens, now the creatures, they can control water, and they send this kind of
the pseudopod.
This thing comes out of the water, and it's actually made of water, and it comes in as they're sleeping, and she wakes up and she sees it looking at her, and then everybody wakes up and they're kind of freaking out. But now
they see it, but they know that there's
and they see that it's friendly and it's trying to connect with them, and so they, of course, now they believe her. But the military guy sees it and he closes the door on it, and so now they believe her that there's this.
But I still think that the Michael Biehn thinks it's some kind of Russian technology. Like, he's not,
because he's crazy.
Yeah, he's not buying off. The pressure psychosis is really getting to him.
Yeah.
And in this extended version of the film, there's a lot more of him being kind of nutty.
Right.
And then, it comes down to they have to stop him from delivering this nuke, because if the nuke goes off, it'll kill them all. So now they've got the
it'll kill them, and
it'll just destroy everything. So they're not only are they going to lose their lives by losing their air, and freezing to death, but now this nuke is going to happen. And the thing is,
and she's worried, she's like, these are aliens. Like, we're trying to connect with them. We're trying to learn about them, and
you're going to nuke them.
You're going to destroy.
They're down in this trench right by us. I mean, you can't set off a nuclear device.
No. So, he attaches the nuke to the little
rover.
The little
ROV.
rover, and he's going to send it down there.
Well, there's something we also forgot, that the SEAL team has brought a new device that has a fluorocarbon liquid that you can breathe. It allows people to breathe, so a human being
go deeper
can breathe. Breathe liquid, and what it does is it stops the pressure from crushing your internal
So the
organs.
oxygen is like imbued in this liquid, and you like breathe in the liquid, and so that you can withstand the pressure.
So after long protracted action sequences, Michael Biehn and Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, there's this incredible action scene where they're trying to chase him to stop him from letting the rover go. They're both in the two submersibles.
Right.
And Ed Harris he's outside in a diving suit. Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio is in one of the smaller submersible, and it's this long protracted action sequence where they're trying to get Michael Biehn.
It's so stressful.
It's a tour de force of action, direction, and all that. It's there. You've got an underwater chase that's not like lethargic like the end of Thunderball. I mean, this is an awesome, and again, the tension is escalated.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And what ends up happening is that the nuke escapes.
It does.
It goes off.
Down.
Michael Bihn's character is killed, crushed.
He also starts going down, and then the pressure is too much, and it
kills him. And then Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio are now stranded about 70 yards away.
Yeah.
And
And
their
they're-
submersible's flooding.
It's starting to flood.
So they have to stop the nuke.
And they're like, "Well, how are we going to even survive this?"
Yeah, how can we do this? And the water's filling up really fast.
And it's very, very cold water.
And there's only one diving suit.
One diving suit. So she comes up with the plan of, well, the water's so cold that I will,
I'll drown myself.
I'll drown myself, and then you bring me over to the whatever it is and revive me after you get there. And he's like, no, here, you put this on.
But it's really stressful.
It's so stressful.
And I have to say, this next scene, the whole sequence of the water coming up, and there's and
And
her
she
love.
does such a great job of being freaked out, because like she comes up with this plan, but like this is freaking her out, and like as the water's coming up, and like she's like, I'm so scared, and she's like freaking out.
Oh, it's the acting here is Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio are amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So she basically fucking drowns,
She does,
and it's pretty hardcore.
it's like my worst nightmare.
It's hardcore. Like it's realized. She drowns, and then Ed Harris takes her out into the sea in the suit and swims the 70 yards back and gets her inside to deep core, and all the remaining characters are there.
They're there, and they got out the equipment to try to revive
And they
her.
basically all there's the shenanigans. I mean, there's so many things we skipped over, but it's action scene after action scene after action scene. It's all just increasing the peril.
Yeah, and it gets so tense.
It gets so tense. And
so they try to revive her, and she's just not coming
and one night's
to.
giving her, the paddles are out
And they're
trying
like,
to
it's not, this
get her
isn't
heart
gonna
going.
work. And Ed Harris, he gives up at one point, but then he's like, no.
But it's drawn out
It's so drawn out.
so long, but I love it because, I mean, the first time I saw this movie, I was so like, there's no fucking way. And what I love about this is you don't think that they're going to possibly let her die, and then they let her die.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh man, you can't believe that they've let her die.
Yeah.
And then Ed Harris is like you, and he's like, no.
No.
And then you think she's dead, and he goes back. He's like, I'm not gonna let you die. And it's a great scene.
Yeah, and so they do the paddles again, but then what really revives her is he starts shaking her, and he's like, don't die.
And he smacks her.
Yeah, and he smacks her, and she revives.
She revives.
And I'm thinking, wouldn't she have brain damage after all that?
Well, no, because her
I guess
system
she
shut
was,
down.
She was frozen.
Let me fill your glass up again. Would you like to count? This would be the second time.
Yes, I see. Second time.
Just keep it score. So then, now they're running out of air. They're running out of everything, but now they have to stop the nuke from going off.
They do.
So the SEAL team, the guys are kind of in bad shape. They can't really do it. Ed Harris he's a great swimmer, and he's not wounded.
Yeah.
So they're going to fill him. They're going to use this new technology, and they're going to fill him up with the fluorocarbons, and they're going to send him to the bottom of this trench.
Yes.
That's thousands and thousands and thousands of feet deep.
Miles and miles down.
And he's going to have to go past the Montana wreckage.
He just keeps going and going.
And he does.
And,
he goes out.
He can communicate via texting.
Right, he has a big text thing on the. It's very funny to think about it now.
That's when he invented texting.
Yeah, he's got a big keyboard on his wrist.
He's like texting.
So then what happens?
So as he's going down deeper and deeper, he's really starting to like lose it.
Well, it's also the way they do it. It's terrifying.
It's so terrifying.
They do there's these great pullback master shots where you just see him with this little, he's got one like flare, his magnesium flare or whatever.
He's got this little thing that's pulling him down, and it has a light on it. And as he goes deeper,
well, he's got weight. It's just the weight and gravity is pulling him down.
Plus this little, I don't know.
Oh, he's got the rover. That's right, the
rover.
Yeah,
that's even smaller one than the one that was sent down there. And as he gets deeper and deeper, he's starting to get loopy, and
the pressure.
And then the pressure crushes his little device.
Yeah, so he's just falling.
Yeah, and he's like texting like weird stuff, and they keep telling Lindsay or whatever her name is. They call her Ace. They keep telling the Ace to talk to him. And so she starts just like general stuff like, oh, you're this deep, and they're like, no, actually talk to him. And so she starts getting more, personal and
emotional, talking about her feelings and really connecting with the first date, the first time they made love, and all this stuff is going on.
So that kind of revives him a little. And finally, he reaches the
well, he does. He reaches the nuke. He finds the nuke, and he's able. And again, it's so great because there's two wires that he has to cut.
Yeah. So his light goes out, but then he takes out one of those
those glow sticks.
Yeah, glow stick, and he turns it on. And it's like a green glow, and his instructions are cut the cord that is white and blue, not the white and black. And with the green light, it's like he can't tell which one's white and blue or which one's white and black.
And then he does. He stops the nuke, but then they ask him to check his gauge.
Yeah.
And it took him over half an hour to get down there, and he's only got 5 minutes of fluorocarbon air left.
And so they are freaking out.
They're freaking out, and he texts back. He says, I knew this was a one-way trip.
Yes, I knew
but I had to come.
I had to come.
And he says, love you, wife.
Yeah.
And then he's just sitting there, resolved to his fate, waiting to die.
Yeah. He's like, I'm just going to hang out here.
And then the light comes.
The light comes up.
And for the first time, you actually see
an alien.
an alien.
And the alien reaches out to him.
And what did you think of the alien design?
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's all, it's all got that bioluminescence which I really like because, this idea that if you had alien creatures with this kind of technology that manipulate water from, say, they're from another planet or whatever, that they came to Earth, and clearly the implication is they've been hanging out for a while.
For a long time.
So Ed Harris is drawn in, and the one thing that struck me when we were watching this last night, that I thought was, I have to say, I thought it was kind of, I know what he was trying to do.
Corny?
I didn't like it. Because here's the one thing, and I really like this movie, but this is something I thought was a misstep in the film.
What?
So the alien is taking Ed Harris into, they've got this massive undersea, huge flying saucer, miles across, this gigantic base. And when Ed Harris gets taken in, they are traveling through all these different tunnels, and it reflects on his mask, and they make it feel like it's 2001. They give you that I'm going through the Stargate thing, but really it's not.
I didn't think that.
He's just going through. A passageway, but he goes through it for a long time, and I know.
And he's about to run out of air.
I know, but I know
that's why they did that.
But I know they're trying to be evocative of all. No,
I don't think so.
No, trust me, and I just thought it was too long. I'm like. You don't have to pull that card because you're not going through a Stargate. You're just going through a machine.
It was that long because you need to realize that he's about to run out of air.
No, once the alien takes his hand, you're not worrying about that anymore.
I was still worried about that because by the time he gets to where he's being taken, he's almost dead.
But then they put him into this room, and it's pretty cool. They have the water split.
Recedes
and he's in an oxygen environment. He takes off his mask.
And he takes a deep breath.
And then what happens?
And then he sees them on the other side in the water.
And there's multiple aliens.
They're all there. They're looking at him. And then they show him footage that they've been watching. Yeah,
they're totally keyed into all the communications of the world. They know exactly what's going on.
Well, first they show his texts.
No, they show that later.
Oh, they show that later.
They show that later, and in the big thing the big change in this movie from the original theatrical version is, and I remember this, when the movie first came out, a lot of people said, this is a great underwater adventure. You didn't need aliens because they had cut down the alien presence a lot in the film. So now one of the things that they add in the director's cut is this international incident that's been brewing, and the cuts to people and talking about, now, and the big thing that people remember is in this version of the film, the aliens launch an attack on Earth.
They do.
They launch these gigantic 1,000-foot high tidal waves against all these major coastal targets in the world. This was not in the version of the movie.
Oh, really?
And basically the aliens, in doing this, because they show Ed Harris concentration camp stuff.
They show him all this horrible
world
stuff
that humanity. And
then they show him these tidal waves that are happening at the moment.
Yeah, and they're basically, and then right as these waves are going to crest and destroy cities and kill millions and millions of people, the waves stop.
They stop.
And it's really awesome. I think it's really awesome. And the aliens are basically like, fuck all y'all.
They're like,
we could have taken out all of humanity, but we're not gonna. We're not gonna.
And you know why they decide?
And Ed Harris is like, why didn't you do it? He even said, why didn't you do it? He says, do it in this kind of weird. Why didn't you do it? and why didn't he? Why didn't the aliens destroy humanity?
Yeah, they show his text where he says,
I went on a one-way trip.
I went on a one-way trip, and you know that I had to do this.
I mean, they knew those nukes were there. They were following what was going on.
Absolutely.
They knew exactly what was up, and they saw Ed Harris make a sacrifice. He sacrificed himself.
Yeah.
Even though you'd think if they were in tune, they could have watched any amount of movies or programming, the aliens would have understood.
That's what I was thinking. What, are they only watching the bad news? They're not watching, like...
No, but they had never... I think at this point in time, they're watching this international incident. They're seeing that nuclear conflict is now inevitable for the first time.
One thing where Ed Harris because Ed Harris loves his wife, and then he tries to sacrifice himself.
No, it's Ed Harris.
That's the one thing that saves
He sacrificed
humanity.
himself for them.
For them.
For them, like
Yeah.
even though they probably could have taken care of it. I mean, they see it as a human being is not just saving his own skin. He's come down there. There's no reason for him to come down there except to stop that nuke going off, and they know that, and that to them is, and by the way, this is a staple of science fiction. This goes back for me when Kirk does not kill the Gorn, which is why I wore this shirt, and that's why I wanted to make this point. It's classic sci-fi. Kirk did not kill the Gorn, and why do the Metrons not destroy the Enterprise of the Gorn ship? That's a quality of mercy. We searched your banks, but we didn't know that. So just like when Kirk spared the life of the Gorn, Ed Harris saved the life of the NTIs, all of them, even though they probably, So it's a very Star Trek moment.
Yes, okay.
I liked it.
Yeah, so basically Ed Harris saves humanity.
And then this giant alien ship comes up. It takes the deep core platform, and in a very cool scene, rises out of the water, and you see the warships, and they're all on top of this thing.
On top of it.
And the deep core crew comes out, and they're like, "We didn't even have to decompress for 3 weeks." And then Mary Elizabeth Moss, Lindsay, and Bud Brigman, they're back on the air. They're back together.
They are. He comes out of the ship and they're reunited.
So, Elizabeth, what did you think of this movie?
I really liked this movie. I really did. It was very tense.
I mean, you were tense the whole time. You were like tense for... This movie's
The
almost
entire
3 hours,
movie.
about half an hour,
Yeah,
about maybe 20 minutes at the time.
time.
You kept...
I was like, this is so stressful.
You kept turning your head to me going, "Oh my God, I'm so
Oh my
stressed."
God, I hate this movie. It's so stressful. When is this over? I can't handle it. And when they're about to die because they're not going to have enough oxygen, I'm like, where's a gun? I would just shoot my brains out because I'd rather die that way than drown.
But what if you knew that there were NTIs around?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I would have panicked. I probably would have.
How did you feel about the characters and did you like the filmmaking? Did you believe it?
Yeah, it was believable. And of course I love aliens, so I thought that was cool.
And did you know that there were going to be aliens in this movie?
I did not.
Because I didn't tell you.
You did not tell me.
How did you feel about the presence of aliens? Do you think they distracted at all from the movie?
No, I love that there were aliens in this movie.
You were telling me before we went on that
aliens.
you wanted to do a mashup.
Yeah, I love all the aliens. I want to mash them all together. I want to do like an underwater alien space vampire movie.
So Life Force meets the Abyss.
Yes.
I'd see that movie.
Would you?
Oh yeah. I think that movie.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah.
Underwater space vampires.
Well, they would be non-terrestrial intelligence. They'd be NTIs.
NTIs.
Or they would be
Vamp NTIs.
yeah, VNTIs. Vampire, or they would be non-terrestrial vampire intelligence. So NTVI.
But wait, if they live underwater and they're vampires, what are they feeding on? Fish?
I don't know. That's a good question. Could they do that?
Maybe they come out at night. See, they come out of the ocean. They spend the day underwater in the abyss, and then they come out at night and suck people's blood.
And suck people's blood.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So, how do you feel about the characters in the film?
I really like the characters.
Did you believe the relationship between Mary Elizabeth,
Yeah.
between Lindsay and
Yeah,
Bud?
their acting was really great.
I thought
Even
so
though
too.
it was a little cliche, I mean, it was great. You really felt like these people had been married and then they were estranged, and all
She
these
cheated on
things.
him.
Well, they were broken up at that point.
Well, they were just apart. I don't know if they'd broken up, but she cheated on him.
They were broken up at that point.
All right. But I think they became broken up because she cheated on him.
No, I don't think that's how it happened.
All right, well, you don't know. So what about Avatar? You don't like Titanic. Did you like Avatar?
I love Avatar.
So, another movie that James Cameron made. How would you compare this to, say, Avatar?
This is very Avatar-ish.
Well, I mean, I think James Cameron's, aside from dealing with alien xenomorphs, when he's dealing with alien intelligences, he has a very sort of Star Trek view of... I think he has a very optimistic view of aliens when you're dealing with intelligences.
Yes.
Maybe not so much with xenomorphs, like in Aliens,
Right.
and maybe not future Earth, but I think his portrayal of the Na'vi in
Yeah.
Avatar and the NTIs, I mean, maybe, because we know a lot of Avatar takes place underwater.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be interesting
Yeah.
if the NTIs from the Abyss are from Pandora?
Yeah, and they kind of have the same shaped face.
I mean, but they would be
And there's-
water
and
dwellers.
there's all that phosphorescent
Yes.
foliage and stuff on
Yes,
that.
and by the way, I have not read this before. This could be... I have not read this in fan sites. I don't know how many fan sites there are about Avatar, but I'm making a prediction. I'm making a prediction on this show. I think that James Cameron is going to make a connection between the aliens in the Abyss and the aliens in Avatar.
I don't know. The Abyss is so old. Nobody would know that connection.
That's why it's cool. If you know, you know. If you don't, it really doesn't matter.
You should call him up and tell him to make that connection.
I'm going to go tweet about it.
Do it.
I don't have to. Other people will. People will be like, Rob Burnett has a theory. I let other people take that out. But if I were him, I would make that connection.
Well, you started the hashtag Justice for Han.
Justice for Han. That's true. I did, although I don't get credit for it.
Really?
Yeah, I know. What can you do? No one ever asked me. Jen Yamato gets all the credit for that.
Why?
You know, because she's Jen Yamato. She has a much bigger audience.
But you're the
People
one who
know her.
started that. You're the one. You kept saying every time we watched those films, you're like, they killed Han.
All the way back to when they first, when Jason Statham was revealed to be the killer. I'm telling you, I was pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so shall we look and see what other people have to say
Yes.
about the Abyss? Let me
The Abyss. Aliens underwater.
Aliens underwater. Okay, remember, we're on that camera now. Right, everyone? All right, let's see who is here. Julius is here. Julius Goodwin sends in a tip and said, "It's said this movie was an intense and dangerous experience with James Cameron directing, Ed Harris and several others apparently nearly drowned in one instance. And when he revived, he instantly started choking Cameron, that he still won't talk about it." Yes.
Wow.
You have to watch, if the documentary is on YouTube, it's called Under Pressure, Making the Abyss. And it's on this disc. It's one of my favorite making of documentaries ever because it shows, it's almost as good as Hearts of Darkness, a filmmaker's apocalypse. It's crazy. Crazy.
I have to see it.
It's great. You have to see it. Everybody should see it. It's an amazing documentary, and I don't think the studio would ever have allowed it to be on the disc now because there were definitely insurance concerns. And
Could you imagine if Ed Harris had died? Everything he made after that would not exist.
I know, he couldn't have been in Apollo 13.
That's insane.
And that would have been bad. Movie Fanobi, Steve is here. He sends in a tip. Thank you very much, Movie Fanobi. I love The Abyss. I'm so disappointed that this, True Lies, aren't in new formats. Still have the DVDs. Why no remastered Strange Days? I know it's Bigelow. I hope the Enchantress liked it. Great relationship beats, love, annoyance, desperation, and honesty.
Yeah, I did love it.
And the Movie Fanobi says The Abyss is also the birth of the T-1000. I love this movie. Great cast, effects, cool stuff. What Movie Fanobi is referring to is that the pseudopod sequence with the water coming out with this was a CG sequence that ILM did, and it was their work on that sequence that allowed them to move on to the T-1000 in T2, which was Cameron's film after this. Or wait a minute. Yeah. He made T2 Judgment Day, and then he made True Lies. Yes, that's how it went. So that's great. You're absolutely right about that. And I think I'll tell you something. The craft on display in this movie, it's so well directed. And you really, again, my favorite thing is you feel authorship. You really feel that it's Cameron is such a sure hand behind this movie. And it's absolutely stunning to look at. Really, 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 really great. Timbula the Spider Monkey's here, and he says, when you announced this was the film for today's show, I wanted to rewatch it beforehand. I didn't have time, but that doesn't matter. The Abyss is still my favorite of James Cameron's movies, and I've watched so many times I basically know it by
Oh, wow.
heart. Well, it's an incredibly well-made movie. And the effects, and look, there's some effects that are a little dodgy now, but remember, this movie's 32 years old, and this is basically, it's a pioneering film as far as CG is concerned, and I think there's only a couple of CG, actually stop motion shots of One Night's, when they're trying to take away.
That's the only time.
Yeah, there's a little strobing.
Yeah.
But for the most part, this is a pretty seamless film.
I don't think I could watch this over and over. It's too intense.
Malbrain says, okay, this is Malbrain's pointing out something really great. You know when they sing the song, when One Night sings the song, the country music song, and they all sing?
Yes.
That's part of the special edition. I'm drunk and dirty, but I'm still willing. The Linda song is one of the best things about the special edition. Yes. And I mean, that's one of the things I like about when James Cameron puts that stuff in. Because James Cameron, if people don't know, used to be a truck driver.
Really?
He was a truck driver.
No way.
Before he was a filmmaker, in his young life, he was a truck driver.
Wow, that's awesome.
And so there's definitely an affinity, a kinship to the characters. And I think that there is, I love the interplay with all of them.
Yes.
It's really good.
Totally.
Swag Props Cal is here. By the way, can I just say as an aside, apparently some company makes the Nine Gates book that Cal makes as well.
No.
But they do it, it's just this tossed off thing.
Oh.
And I was reading something that Cal, if you haven't looked at Swag Props, his Etsy store, it's SWAK Props, S apostrophe. All he does is make prop books from movies. The quality of his work is unsurpassed by anybody on the internet. Don't let anyone tell you. What he charges for his 9 Gates of the Kingdom of Heaven from the 9th Gate, or his Indiana Jones Grail Diary, or actually it's Henry Jones's Grail Diary, he deserves everything he gets.
Yeah.
He does incredible work. Anyway, I just read that somebody was giving him, he was having to explain his work. I'm like, fuck that. I know, it's terrible. I was mad.
Is he still making the Donnie Darko?
No, I don't know if I don't know. During the scene, Cal says, during the scene where Bud was trying to resuscitate Lindsay, apparently Harris took it a bit far and was really pounding on Mastrantonio's chest, much to her chagrin. Yes, especially when she found out the camera panned away halfway through the scene. Yeah, but you never know what you're going to use in editing.
It had to look real.
It had to look real. Malbrain says, Michael Biehn is always a ham, but in The Abyss, he does his best ham. a decent Black Forest ham. I agree, Malbrain. I agree. I think he's great. And in the extended version, he's even better. He's even better. The Throg is here. Let's get Avatar excited, but on Disney Plus, we can't watch the Na'vi mate. Christian's blush. Is that true? I've got the extended version of Avatar as well. That's the only version I can watch. Kaz Graphics sends in a super chat and says, I don't always like James Cameron movies, but guess what? I'll never bet against him. Very curious to see what he does with the Avatar sequels. Man, I am with you, Kaz. I do not understand. James Cameron continually has people saying, I don't know, I mean, this movie's not going to work. The man's never lost, other than Piranha 2: The Spawning. And people are always like, Titanic is going to be a horrible, it's going to sink 2 studios. Both Paramount and Fox put in money. Oh my God. Oh no. Up until Avengers Endgame last year, it was the most successful movie ever made until, oh wait, then Avatar comes along and is even more successful than Titanic, and that was the most successful movie of all time until Avengers Endgame took over. Even now, people are like, Avatar has no pop culture footprint. What does that even mean? Like, my mom loved Avatar.
So did my mom.
I mean,
she absolutely loves that movie.
The moms were all into Avatar.
I really liked it too.
So let me give you, fill up your glass a little bit more. Mine's almost empty.
Yay.
And I'll kill this bottle. See, look, now I just want to point out, this is how it usually goes. You know why you always have, well, it's pretty close. We're pretty close. There we go.
Yeah, but I still had some wine in here.
Yeah, but I was we still equaled out.
Maybe.
Come on, man. Drink. Come on, man.
Drink.
So, there's a movie that I have not seen yet that was produced. It's called Sea Fever, and Dieter Bastian is sending it to me.
Oh.
Because it came out on Blu-ray the same way that Prospect, the other, Dust, made it. So, what more do you think? What are you going to take away from this film? Is there anything more that you can? What do you think?
I really liked this film.
All right. Well, since we're
even though the whole time I was like, "Oh my God, I hate this! I hate this! This is so stressful. When is this going to be over? This is so I hate this film. I want to shoot my brains out."
Well, all right. We're there's a Netflix movie that dropped, the Charlize Theron, like the Highlander riff.
Oh.
She plays the character that's like 6,000 years old.
Oh.
It's called The Old Guard, based on a comic book.
Oh.
It looks really good. Dropped
that
on
sounds
Netflix.
Interesting.
We gotta watch. Oh, it looks great. It's getting good reviews. People liked it.
Is that what you're picking for Monday?
No.
Oh.
No. That's not what I'm picking for Monday. But since you asked, what are you picking for Friday?
Well, I threw it out there on Monday that I wanted to pick Atonement, and there was a lot of positive responses.
Okay.
So I'm picking Atonement.
So we're watching Atonement.
Yes, we are.
All right. Keira Knightley.
Keira Knightley.
And Saoirse Ronan, like Inertia.
Yep.
Saoirse like Inertia.
That's right.
I like that Saoirse Ronan.
Yes. She's a great actor.
And she's also very smart and funny. I love
is.
watching her on late night talk shows.
Yep. So we're doing Atonement.
I've always wanted to meet a girl named Saoirse. Actually, I never have, but when I saw her and knew her name was actually, when we saw that on, I never knew how her name was. I was like,
I thought it was Saoirse. I've heard it's pronounced Saoirse before.
Saoirse like Inertia.
But she said it was
She
Saoirse.
said it. That's how I learned it, and that's how it's a mnemonic memory device. Saoirse like Inertia. I'll never forget that.
But before that, I knew a girl named Saoirse, spelled the same way. But
well, she was mispronouncing it.
I guess.
I mean, come on, Saoirse Ronan is actually Irish.
Well, yeah, so was this girl, but I guess they pronounce it different.
Doc Savage sends in a super chat and says, Ross and Rachel were also on a break. Whose side do you guys fall on? You know what?
Wow.
You know what? I'm always on Rachel's side.
Yeah, I mean, on a break. They were about to get divorced. A break is different than
By the way,
On a break is different than about to get divorced.
I've never seen an episode of Friends.
That's insane.
Not one. I saw half of the pilot.
That's crazy.
The one about
what the hell?
The one about how Rob Burnett has never seen an episode of Friends.
Maybe we should do a show watching Friends.
Or not.
Wow.
I mean, I get it. I understand. I've read enough about it. I'll watch it.
No, you won't. You don't like sitcoms. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, I like old sitcoms. I like I Dream of Jeannie, and I like Gilligan's Island. I like The Partridge Family and The Brady Bunch.
This is very much like those.
All right.
Friends is very much like that.
Ross Gecko sends in a super chat and says, I would have loved to have seen Michael Biehn play Colonel Quaritch. He's coming back, though, man. He's in Avatar, too. Thanks again. And I mean, not Michael Biehn, but the actual... Thanks again for reading the pages of Free Enterprise, The Wrath of Shatner. Hilarious.
You did that today?
Hope you get to make it. Did it feature Mark and Robert? Oh, yes. The movie's all about Mark and Robert. All the characters come back. And it's sad because we were actually going to make it. I mean, it was going to be... Free Enterprise 2 is already cast. We cast... Pam Grier was in it. Malcolm McDowell was in it. Even ex-porn star Sasha Grey was going to be in it, playing a role. So, yeah. It's too bad we never got to make it. What are you going to do? But hope springs eternal. We might be able to get it made still.
Yes.
Throg Escapes says, I remember a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I was the only one I knew that loved this movie. Yep, Cameron approved taking out the scene from Avatar for Disney+. I didn't know that. I didn't know that there's a mating scene where they can't... Funny story. Wasn't Cameron against censorship when they tried it in the 90s for VHS? Yeah, look, I really don't understand why in this country we would take away the idea of people mating to procreate.
Yeah, plus their mating scene is not... It's not anything that you... I don't know.
We all got here. We all got here because of fucking. And the idea
it's such an American thing.
The idea that you can't show fucking... How do you, at the end of the day...
But you can show killing.
Yeah, you can kill anybody you want. Show some fucking. People are like, oh, kids can't see that. Which is really interesting, because when they figure it out, there's a lot more kids in the world that want to do some fucking than killing.
Not anymore.
Well, maybe not. Maybe kids want to kill more than... Maybe that's the real problem with society.
That is the problem.
They've now... Yeah, it's problematic.
It is problematic.
Lots of things are problematic, but in my mind... That would be the most problematic. No more killing, lot more fucking. That's my philosophy of life.
Yes.
That should happen.
Make love, not war.
Yeah, that's right.
We're hippies.
Throg's Boogaloo Freak sends in a tip and says, Rob, how the fuck have you not seen Friends? Yes, we need a show to analyze the show. They were on a break. Way to stand up for your fellow man. Don't get me started. Look, dude.
Well... They were on a break.
Let me just tell you. Why do you think
man.
I'm standing up for Jennifer Aniston? Come on. I just want her to find love. She's never found love. Which leads me to believe that life with her is no picnic. Which means I will stand up for her. Ross Gecko sends in another super chat. I am a massive fan of the first film. It's brilliant and changed my life. Are you a fan of the Doc Trekkies? My dad showed me that in Free Enterprise on a VHS double feature when I was a kid. Ross, let me tell you something. Not only am I a fan of Trekkies, but Roger Nygard, who directed Trekkies, Roger Nygard and I were flown to Israel, and we both went together to a film festival in Tel Aviv, and we showed Free Enterprise and Trekkies to probably the best audience I've ever shown it to, at the Tokyo Cinematheque, and it was amazing. So yes, and by the way, I have a new version of Free Enterprise that I would love to get out into the world, and it's better. And I just need to get my hands on the negative and the money to make it. So yeah, I'd like to do a third version, the definitive version. I appreciate the kind words, by the way. Thank you very much. But yeah, if you want, send me a DM on Twitter or something. I'll send you the script for Free Enterprise 2.
You're giving that out?
What do I care? Didn't get made.
It might. It might.
Yeah.
Actually, it will.
I'd like to make it. So, Elizabeth, we've come to that time where we have our bottoms-up scale of films. Tell the folks at home, what is our bottoms-up scale?
Okay, so our bottoms-up scale is from 1 to 4 because there are 4 glasses of wine in a bottle.
No, it's not to 1 to 4. It's 1 to 4 glasses of wine.
1 to 4 glasses of wine because there are 4 glasses of wine in a bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So? Well, what do you think then on a scale of 1 to 4 glasses of wine? What do you give The Abyss?
You need to switch the camera so that...
Oh, yes. Wait, Timbula the Spider Monkey sends in a tip and says, wait, off topic, I know, but is that just the box, or is your Mezco 1 12-inch Moon Knight not opened? It's not opened. It's the comic. Well, hang on.
He loves to leave things in boxes. # free the toys.
Come on, man. This is actually the exclusive, the Mezco exclusive. So, yeah. Look, all right. Look, I'm not going to... There's a lot of accessories here. But, yes. So, I didn't get the regular Moon Knight, by the way, because I don't collect. I got this exclusive. So, there you go. I should have got the all-white. You know, it's funny. I actually had it. I had put it in my pile of loot at the Big Bad Toy Store, but I gave it up because I needed the money to ship my other stuff from the Big Bad Toy Store. So I know it's a long story, but anyway.
Oh my God.
So yep, he's up there. Oh, see. But I will open this figure because I don't really collect 1/12 scale figures. Those Mezco figures are great. I like them. But I get movie ones. I got Alex. I got Diabolic. I've got the 4-box, the four Warriors. But that's it.
Where's my Zed?
They don't make a Zed, babe.
Where's Amelie?
They don't make Amelie either.
Lame.
So we don't even know. Wait a minute. What is your? How many glasses of wine do you give The Abyss?
I think you have another super chat.
Rachel and Throg sent a tip and says, we were on a break. Marcel agrees.
No, that's not the same thing as in this movie where they were this close to being divorced.
Doc Savage sends in a super chat. No, see, Mark was at Rachel's place at 2 a.m. the day she said they needed a break. Can't blame Ross. Sorry, that's bugged me for 20 years. No idea what any of that means. I mean, I can infer from what you're saying. I do appreciate that,
I have
though.
to say, I kind of was watching sporadically by then. I was not... I kind of get bored with... When things go on for so many seasons, I get bored because it's like the same thing over and over again.
If you ask me about Friends, I would say it was the one I never watched. Ever.
You never watch any sitcom. Ever.
Not a big fan of it. I mean, look, MASH was good. You were watching some MASH last night.
Yeah,
I
did.
that.
I watched MASH last night. I was like, I need some nostalgia. I need to go back to my...
It was good.
My brain was fried.
Yeah.
I'm in Zoom classes every single day for 5 to 7 hours.
Yeah, no, she's very intense. So, wait a minute. What is your... We are in the weeds here. What is your review? How many glasses of wine does The Abyss get?
Okay. It has aliens. It was a great adventure. It was very intense. There was love. True love. Reconciled love. I like those stories. I'm going to give this 3.5 glasses of wine.
Well, we are in total agreement. I give this movie, I would give this movie 4 stars, but I do think a lot of it's a little clunky.
Glasses of wine.
I mean, that's why I said glasses of wine, 4 glasses of wine. I give it 3.5 as well. I think this movie is an astonishing achievement from filmmaking, but it doesn't transcend. It's got a lot of elements, familiar elements to it, but 3.5 stars. But the filmmaking is first rate, 4 stars. The writing sort of brings it down, but I think it's a terrific.
It has underwater aliens.
It's a terrific feat. It's an incredible fantasy film. So I'm going to give it 3.5 glasses myself. So cheers to that. Once again, we are in agreement. So I'm going to end this. We're going to end the 50th episode of whining about movies before somebody sends in another super chat about Friends. Not that we don't appreciate that. We want to thank you.
Maybe we can make him watch Friends.
We can thank you for the support of that channel. I will watch Friends live. You know, if somebody picked favorite episodes, I'll drink Jameson.
Although, if I had to pick a sitcom for you to watch, if I only had one choice, I'd have to think about that. I don't think it would be Friends.
Well,
I don't think it would be Friends.
I mean, the great thing about a sitcom for me is I just have to watch one episode. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it.
No. Well, yeah, but if
the last sitcom that I watched religiously, that I saw every episode of, was Dream On.
I don't even know what that is.
Dream On HBO with Martin Tupper.
When was that?
In the early 90s, and they had boobs in every episode.
Was it funny?
It was so funny.
I like the one with Zoe Deschanel, although I stopped watching that too because it got too raunchy.
Well, anyway, my dear, we're now at the end of this episode. Thank you for joining us. Friday, Romantic Friday, for episode 51. We're doing Atonement.
We are. We're
looking forward to that. We're doing Atonement, so join us Friday night for Atonement. And I want to thank I guess I call them my staff, my volunteer staff. I want to thank Mike Bodden. I want to thank Greg Smith. I want to thank Jordy Lyons, but I most especially want to say thanks to the Richard. And if it wasn't for the Richard, we wouldn't have all the great parties, the view parties that he runs until God knows when in the morning. The sun comes up before he goes to bed. The Richard is always showing something cool on the Post-Geek Singularity Facebook page. He's always doing something cool over at the Whining About Movies Facebook page.
He's actually doing a Zoom watch party right after this.
He's doing a Zoom watch party right after this. So go see what he's showing and join him there. And I want to thank you all for supporting the channel. You can send us letters at the Burnettwork.net website.
Yes, send letters.
And I will, of course, be back on Robservations tomorrow at, I think, 1. I'm going to go back and do 1 tomorrow. Jerry Seinfrog said, well, what do you mean? You've never watched?
Yeah. You never watched Seinfeld. That's insane.
I get it.
No, you think you get it.
Look, Robservations is the show about something. Where do you think I got that notion? I got that notion from the show that's about nothing.
Yeah, but you've never seen it.
I've read a lot about it, though. Anyway, so Elizabeth, what do we say when we get to the end of the episode?
Everyone you meet and sitcoms have a story to tell that you yet have to hear.
You have yet to hear.
Whatever. And all you have to do is listen.
All you have to do is listen.
And watch.
And watch. I'm watching you. So cheers to the end of episode 50. Can you believe, by the way, that we've done 50 episodes of this show?
I can't believe.
50.
50.
This was a show that was born out of quarantine, and it's still going on.
It continues in quarantine.
It continues in quarantine. We shelter at home.
We do.
Well, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
We're going to end this show. Thank you very much. How do we end this show?
Have a better night.
Have a better night.
Have a butter knife.
Have a butter knife. Or have a letter knife. Anyway. Thanks very much, and I'll see you tomorrow. And on Friday, episode 51, Atonement.
Atonement.